Welcome to Decentralized News Podcast, where we report the major events affecting the crypto economy. I am your host, Piter, joined as always by Aussie. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great.
Let's jump right into our educational and entertaining content. This is not financial advice. We're just going to jump right into the Bitcoin volatility that's been going on the last couple of weeks now. It's really been pretty serious, maybe longer than that. Maybe like a month now.
We're more or less on a month now, I think.
So this last one really dipped us below the 20-week moving average, which is commonly called the bull market support band. And the question really is this a brief visit that it bounces back from just because we were a little early, hitting all-time highs, or is this going to serve as resistance in kind of this midterm summer lull environment? I'm still very long-term bullish, but short-term and midterm can be hard to predict. We're going to get into the bearish and bullish news about it, what's causing it, but any general thoughts on it?
Yeah, I've got kind of a 3 to 6 or 7 week outlook on Bitcoin kind of being below this bull market support band. If we look back to 2020, we had about 6 to 8 week kind of visit below the bull market support band, and so I wouldn't be surprised if we see something similar this time around, somewhere in that region. I think if you look at the pattern, it looks very similar to the summer top before we went to 69K. That seems likely to me right now. I'll be eagerly watching to see if anything else happens, but it falls in line with all the narratives to me.
So the biggest stories that's been leading the charge of FUD has really been two-pronged. It's Germany and MTGOX selling. Now, there's not any MTGOX selling yet, but Germany is actually selling and moving coins to exchanges. I've just got people speculating all over the place that, the market cap is so big on Bitcoin, it's not going to have that much of an impact. And other people pointing out, you got to think about liquidity and the current liquidity in the market at the moment. And it could have a huge impact. You have people like Capital Crypto is famously bearish, putting out a tweet recently about 12K Bitcoin. There were guys like David Portnoy a couple of weeks ago talking about, I'll buy in at, from Barstool Sports. I don't know if you're familiar with it.
Yeah.
But, I'll buy in at 40,000. And I was thinking at the time, like, no way. That guy is crazy. He's never going to get in. He's always going to be suffering with Bitcoin. But who knows? It's really hard to predict. But like I said, we have the major funding. Bitcoin has been beset by selling pressure amid anticipation of asset offloading from empty GOX payouts and the German government making transfers from the seized Bitcoin they have. According to blockchain analytics platform Arcane, the German government transferred 133,000. Oh, was it 133?
No, 133. Oh, yeah, some to Cumberland.
133 to market maker Cumberland Monday morning. In the past day, their data also shows that the German government wallet has sent 1,250 Bitcoin to exchange Kraken, 2,000 to Coinbase. Yeah, so it's just a bunch of them. 2,300 to Bitstamp and 5,200 to market maker flow traders. And adding to the selling pressure is news that crypto exchange Bitstamp will aim, they put out like a post about this. They will aim to distribute this portion of the Bitcoin repayments from Mt. Gox right away, even though they had 60 days to comply. So this just adding to the fueling the fire that this money's going to hit the market fast. There's a lot of fear around it. And then I just wanted to point this out. In contrast, and maybe it says something about the cyclical nature, maybe money leaving the system, but equities and gold have been doing well in this environment recently. So they're all in the green: NASDAQ, Dow Jones, S&P, European indexes, gold, everything green lately.
And I think there's a lot of things that you just covered there that are important to break down a little bit. Your discussion about market cap versus liquidity, and that one's important because, yes, it can have an outsized impact on price. Just if your daily volume, so it's not necessarily liquidity, but your daily trading volume. If a singular transaction, so if the German government were to offload like 1,000 Bitcoin in one transaction as a market sell, rather than a limit sell or anything like that, and that represented more than 10 to 15% of the daily trading volume, you're likely to have a red day because you're going to have other sellers that were looking to sell at maybe a slightly higher price, selling a little bit lower because they get nervous, and then market makers might take advantage of that to drive the price a little bit lower because you get liquidations, and then you hit a floor where you've hit all the liquidations and there was a good buy kind of wall or an order block, if you're in the trading scene, is what it's called. And we've not taken out most of the major order blocks left on Bitcoin. There is one at 3242 in that range, but most people that talk about that order block, there's often one or two order blocks that kind of get left during the bull market and then get taken out in the bear market. So that's one that might get left. And then there's another one just slightly below this price action. Maybe I think it's like 48's the bottom band of it. I don't have the order blocks in front of me right now. So liquidity in that sense, in terms of daily trading volume, that does have an impact on how big any one of these sells could have on the market. But it's not the same thing as if you're talking about liquidity on chain, because liquidity on chain, you're not being market matched. You're just dumping into a liquidity pool, whereas on these exchanges, you're being market matched. And so people might have, like, you can only sell into certain prices. And often what happens is you then have a bunch of buyers come in because you have limit orders at these lower prices that get triggered. It's important, but not as crazy as some people make it out to be.
It's one of those stories where it's like, it's coming. They can now see the clouds. They just don't know how bad the storm is going to be, and no one can quite predict it.
That's especially the case with MT Gox right now. A lot of people are like, we can see the storm, what's going to happen.
It's about to make landfall. You know?
It's like Hurricane Beryl, essentially. Everyone started seeing it coming, and then it hit. And I kind of wonder if MT Gox is going to be a little bit of a nothing burger. The people that are getting paid out right now are people that were willing to wait to get their Bitcoin on a longer term. And so they were getting a higher return, like a higher rate of return, is my understanding, on their Bitcoin. And in my mind, if they were willing to wait longer, they probably have a longer term mindset on Bitcoin. And so they might still think that Bitcoin can go a lot higher, and so they don't sell right now, or limited selling.
Leading up to this, and maybe it's my bias, I really wanted to believe, like, I was less fearful. It's like, oh, it's going to come, it's nothing. And then just looking at just the general economy around me and how much inflation has infected the economy, these people that have waited may be under a different kind of pressure lately, just due to the inflation and the rising cost of goods that they may need to. But either way, yeah, it's an unknown, and we're going to have to ride part of the cycle out.
Yeah, I think that's a totally fair point, by the way. Like, the risks of inflation right now are pretty significant. However, and like that impact, especially certain families' budgets.
You have to. You know?
Yeah. That's it. Like, it doesn't, I honestly don't think it matters which tax bracket you're in, just depending on how you leverage yourself over the last kind of 3 to 5 years could have an outsized impact on your family's finances. That being said, the people that were in Bitcoin in 2018, a really risky asset in 2017, 2018, not very well known. It might have been even earlier than 2017,
no,
2014.
We're talking like 2014. This was Magic the Gathering, MT Gox. It was very early on. The story goes back to them trading
Magic the Gathering
cards. That's how it all started.
So that's it. So you're talking 2013, 2014. And if they were in Bitcoin and into Magic the Gathering, like to that level, they probably had quite a bit of disposable income, and likely still do at this point in time. And even if they didn't have a ton of disposable income, they had 8 years to buy Bitcoin again. If they believed in Bitcoin that much, they took the longer return, and they were playing that early. They probably have a pretty long-term view on Bitcoin. They're probably
inflation hedge too. That's the paradox of the whole thing.
Exactly. So to me, I agree, but I also think about how the market thinks at these points in time, where right now I wouldn't say we're necessarily at max fear quite yet, because we haven't hit July 31st when that Bitcoin could potentially start hitting the market. But we're at a point where, to me, the market's like it's max FUD level, where everyone's, oh my God, like when we're talking about 12K Bitcoin, we didn't even hit 12K Bitcoin during FTX, like where billions and billions have got liquidated. We actually just had our biggest liquidation since FTX on Bitcoin, and we're still above 50K market cap, like $50,000 Bitcoin. So to me, the likelihood that we actually dip that much further below this, like, could we go to 48? Could we go like maybe mid low 40s? Possibly. But I think that's less of a possibility than this range.
Let's get Dave Portnoy in here. Give the guy a chance. Let's turn a little bit and talk a little bit about Germany before we move on. And there's a lot of it's like, oh, they're just selling, and it's a debated issue inside the country. It's not 100%. And I just wanted to point that out. There are members of the German that advocate for Bitcoin and are fighting for it currently. Joanna Kotar heavily criticized the government decision, saying it's hastily selling its possession in lieu of a comprehensive Bitcoin strategy. So maybe they could pause or take a step back. Another quote from her: instead of holding Bitcoin as a strategic reserve currency, this could turn into a major bullish story, as it is already being debated in the USA. Our government is selling on a large scale, and that this is not sensible and counterproductive. The book has yet to be written on everything Germany is going to do, but they are moving stuff to exchange and they are selling now. But long term, who knows? Could be beneficial.
Yeah, I think that there's a big chance that Germany maybe, at least, I don't think they sell everything they've got. Like, I think that's unlikely, and the selling will probably stop sooner than later. There was even a little bit of a buyback on their part when a couple days ago, like late, I think on Friday, because they maybe oversold on a certain day or something like that.
I saw some tweet about that, but I didn't look into it any further.
Yeah, I haven't fully understood everything around that buyback, but there was a bit of a buyback of some Bitcoin. So maybe they are already realizing a bit of their mistake. We'll see what kind of the EU does and what Germany does. I don't think that this selling goes on forever. I don't think they empty their clip, and I also think that at the end of the summer, as the supply shock really starts taking an impact at the end of 6 months after that we start seeing a bit more bullish sentiment again.
To the German government, hold now or FOMO later. No. Anyway, keeping in the EU, I thought this was a bit of a bearish story, maybe more so than you did, but France on the Poly market, which is a betting site on Polygon that gets mentioned quite often, just in general, outside of even Web3, they got it wrong on the French election. So the polling too, it wasn't just Poly market, but that's putting your money where your mouth is. But polling said that the right was going to win, the Le Pen or something like that. But she's a controversial figure over there. So the left, kind of in a last-ditch effort, like a lot of people dropped out so that there was a around one candidate or fewer candidates, and they won. So it really shocked people. So it's staying to the left, which could be argued it was bearish for crypto in general. Just generally speaking, this move to the right that it's like a wave worldwide. We're seeing it more and more. This is a defeat. And if you're very crypto-centric, you're a little disappointed seeing this.
Yeah. And I disagreed with you a little bit on whether this was bearish or not for crypto. The fact that they went for a big coalition move, that doesn't surprise me at all. It's pretty common in French elections that one side will drop a bunch of candidates in order to ensure that...
I'm sure the right could have done it or something.
But I also thought that given France's they're more politically active as a whole society in general, that a move to the right, especially the far right, would be pretty negative for crypto because
they do riot, seems like easily lately, so it would add a lot of volatility. It's a fair point.
Yeah, it would add a lot of just community volatility within France, which could be bad for the general stock market in the EU, but also just lead to unstable kind of situation there, which would not allow people to, especially retail, to explore degen-hood of the crypto market, which is necessary. You need retail to have the time and to have the spare money to explore the crypto market during the bull run, because that's what really makes it pop off in the kind of parabolic ways that it often does. And if you had them very active in activism, that money and that time is likely being dedicated to those social causes. And so I think that a move too far to the right, like what was being seen in France there, it was a far right. It wasn't just slightly to the right, that was going to have probably an outsized impact on those types of issues and really potentially negatively impact the crypto market by going too far to one side.
Well, we'll put that one kind of in the middle then, and let's trend towards maybe some more bullish stories. So one of the narratives that people are excited about is the ETH ETF. And then we're also going to get into a vote that's going on in the United States. But let's get into the ETH ETF. So there's a lot of excitement around this. VanEck. Okay, so today is the deadline for filing the amendments. We touched on this in our last show. So there's comment periods and they have to adjust their S1s. So that's all due today. And then there was some talk from the Bloomberg analysis, James Safar, who talks about this a lot, who says he expects this to happen around July 15th. He said the comments, they were barely asking for anything. Like Bitwise turned theirs in on July 3rd ahead of the deadline because there was nothing much to do. And that it should be launched already based on how light the comments were. So that deadline is today, and we're still looking maybe like a week according to this prediction. So some positive news on the horizon, potentially.
Yeah, Eric Balkunis is also agreeing with that and said that it seems like minutia details, which in legal reasons they have to fix and have to adjust to make sure it fits all of the criteria. Yeah, that's it. So to me, I think that the reality is that it wasn't a big thing, but we had, I think, 3 or 4, maybe even 5 rounds of comments on the Bitcoin ones. And whereas we've heard this is maybe the 2nd or 3rd round of comments on the ETH ETF applications, the fact if they get it done in 3 would be, hey, we're moving faster than when we did with Bitcoin. And even if it's the 15th rather than 2 weeks ago when people were first talking about it, like just right around Independence Day in the US and Canada Day in Canada, literally the reason why we didn't have a show last week. I think that
horrible excuse, by the way.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I think that's still pretty bullish. 2 weeks. What does it really matter when the German government was still dumping Bitcoin? Like, okay, ETH maybe has a bit of a rally, or ETH has a bit of extra selling pressure from Grayscale. It doesn't change much.
Yeah, and it could be like a sell the news type of event, like maybe it's already priced in. So I don't know. It has to be good news. So long term, it's very good news. All right, let's switch over to the U.S. government. So I thought this was like a win-only type of a story. So the U.S. House is set to vote next week on overriding President Biden's veto of SAB 121. So there is very little expectation they'll be able to overturn it. You have to get 2/3 majority in both the House and the Senate. So it's a high hurdle. But if they did, it would just be a very bullish story. If they don't, it's like steady as we're going right now. It's not some hardcore additional FUD. And even if they get close, it could be bullish. You know what I mean? But even more bullish if they actually score a touchdown here on the Hail Mary. But the U.S. House is set to vote next week on this controversial Securities and Exchange Commission accounting bulletin after getting vetoed from U.S. President Joe Biden. The vote is a constitutional obligation, and that's why you won't get too excited about it. But at the same time, like I said, I think it's only win. And political experts are mixed about whether lawmakers have enough votes. So there's a chance, right?
There's a chance, but like the vice president of policy for the Chamber of Digital Commerce said, like they are going to need about 60 more votes than what they had to pass the bill in the first place, and so the chances that you can rally 60 votes on an issue that like was vetoed by the president is very difficult, especially this close to an election.
Right.
And
like you're turning on the president now.
Yeah, it doesn't look.
And they have to do it in the House and the Senate. So yeah, there's a lot of hurdles to get over.
There's a possibility. There's a possibility.
All right, the next major narrative, and we haven't covered it too much the last couple of weeks, is macro. It's heating up a little bit at the end of the month. We're already a week in. We get another Fed meeting.
But yeah, we've got a lot of data coming out this week. Important data too. First of all, we've got Jerome Powell on Wednesday testifying in front of the House. So it'll be interesting to see his comments on inflation, on unemployment, on imports, export, GDP growth. All of those will play a pretty big thing, and he'll also be testifying to the Senate today, like on Tuesday when this video releases. So So that'll be pretty interesting to see what his comments are like. And then Thursday, we get right into CPI, which is expected to stay relatively low at 0.1%. It's up a bit from what was last month of 0, but down overall year over year to 3.1%. At least that's the expectation, down from 3.3. So would be a nice move. Core CPI is expected to remain steady at 0.2 and 3.4% year over year. Nothing crazy, but nothing too wild.
The expectations are important just because if there's deviations from it, that can affect the market. So it's good to know going in what's going on, and how that might affect if it comes in hot or cold, really.
Yeah, and then we got PPI coming out on Friday, and there's not a consensus right now yet on what those will be. Right now, PPI looks like there might be a bit of a bounce back month over month. It was down negative 0.02% last month, and now consensus is around 0.1% up. But overall, there's not necessarily strong conviction on the rest of it in terms of what will happen. We'll see what those readings, if those readings progress over the week. But yeah, you mentioned we've got a meeting coming up sooner than later, and no one's really expecting a cut for this meeting. 95% no change. But we're at a 75% chance of a cut in the mid-September meeting. That's pretty meaningful.
That's the biggest difference just month to month that I can remember watching this all the time. Like it's like a big swing.
Yeah, this is quite a bit of certainty. We haven't had this much certainty this close to a meeting in terms of a potential cut for a long time. And we're at an 85% chance for the November 7th meeting. So they're a little bit more certain that it'll definitely happen by November, but there's still a pretty strong majority that are pretty confident for a September cut. That's good news if you're wanting interest rates to come down and waiting for that liquidity to hit the market. The market is still about 75% of the market is favoring a second cut by December. So that's something to get excited about if you really think that those rate cuts will really boost the market. 25% of the market is just about expecting just one cut for the year. So whether that's September or November.
All right, so we get into the speed run. We covered macro, covered the headlines. Let's get into our favorite small cap, Goon. Just TLDR, run for the hills. This is not financial advice. We were both Goon holders, but we're both actively involved, so we're going to give you the updates here. You want to kick us off?
Yeah,
Aussie?
Let's dig into it. Absolutely.
What is Goon on Polygon? What is it?
Goon is attempting to be the social layer and the premier meme token on Polygon. It was launched on One Markets, which is like fun. On Solana, it's a fair launch process for contracts and tokens. And so there's no team allocations, there's no team, and no dev, no rug, and liquidity is burnt once it graduates off One Markets. So there's no chance of anyone pulling liquidity. Pretty awesome in terms of security, and the community rallied around it. It plays on the fact that Sandeep, who's the founder of Polygon, the CEO of Polygon, calls holders of Polygon and Polygon community members goons, and they really adopted this meme token and this token. In the last couple weeks since we made a video, the Goon community has filed for their Polygon grant. So Polygon's doing a massive granting program, with the filing deadline being July 31st, and they've submitted an application for funding.
Yeah, there's a lot of excitement that this is actually going to get approved. So cross your fingers, knock on wood. But yeah, hope that. Can't wait to hear what happens with that either way.
Yeah, so that'd be pretty massive. Goon's been on a few Twitter Spaces with some pretty massive people. The founder and CEO of QuickSwap, with that had over 40,000 people listening to it. They were also on a couple X Spaces with the official Polygon account, talking about what they do with the grant, and it seems bullish that they will likely get the grant.
Yeah, it was like a QuickSwap and a Polygon space.
Yeah, so
those are pretty big,
Yeah, especially for a project that's only 30 days old. That's pretty wild. On top of that, Jesse Eckel, who's like a member of the community for Goon, made a video about Goon. It was unsponsored. It was an organic video. He just wanted to tell his story, And that's one of the great things about Goon is they aren't paying for marketing at all. Anything that goes out is organic because they have no team or budget.
Shout out to your friend Andy too. He has done a lot too with just that organic unpaid influencer. For a holder, it's really exciting to see that there are people of this caliber involved.
Yeah, your friend Andy has put out several really quality tweets and mentioned it on a couple of his live streams. Big shout out to your friend Andy as well. As I've said, lots of major spaces. They've also done some AMAs with a few different communities, so that was pretty bullish. And looking at the holder count, it's growing and at a pretty healthy rate. They're at about 1,250 holders as of right now, and the Telegram somewhere around 550, over 550 members right now.
Not long ago, we were celebrating 1,500, and it's really kept up the momentum.
Oh, absolutely. I think the holder count's actually, that momentum sped up quite a bit. So I'm pretty excited about that as a holder myself. And on top of that, totally randomly, they got listed on CoinMun, which is, from the looks of it, a kind of a meme coin listing site, just like CoinMarketCap or CoinGecko. That happened organically, and so everyone's excited. That's just a little bit of extra ways to get eyes on Goon. Super bullish news for Goon right now. Currently somewhere around a $4.6 million market cap, the last I checked before the recording. So looking pretty good for Goon right now.
Yes, 1 billion or death. Okay, that's enough pumping our own bags. Let's get into the speed run with the other stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Mantle, their Sepolius testnet hard fork upgrade is supposed to happen on the 10th of July. So good for Mantle. They are continuing to dev on their site.
All right. Yeah, we can go over the other. You do the two Jupiter ones. But Tron, Justin Sun announcing plan to develop gasless stablecoin to launch on Tron network first quarter or Q4 before going EVM.
That's pretty cool. He also made a statement offering to buy a bunch of Germany's Bitcoin.
He's always, whatever is like the big story, he loves to just throw his name in there. He is good at it. He does it all the time. That doesn't surprise me. I didn't see that story, but that sounds like Justin Sun.
Yeah, that's it. I didn't mention it when we were talking about Germany and everything like that because he does just like throwing his name out there. Yes. And and Germany isn't doing OTCs from the looks of it, but we mentioned him here, so worth mentioning it there. That's it. Jupiter coming out with a pretty interesting proposal, which is a 30% supply reduction proposal, which is scheduled to go live this month. So that is pretty interesting for Jupiter because they have quite a bit of inflation over the next few years through airdrops, etc. So I'll be interested to see what happens with Jupiter on that note. They've also launched apejup.ag, which is aimed to be a pump fund competitor. Pump fund has done quite a bit of revenue, almost $3 million in revenue in 24 hours on some of its really good days, which is more than Solana, Ethereum, or any of them in daily transactions. Interesting to see Jupiter aiming to get their foot in the door there as well.
Then we got, I don't know how to pronounce it, XAI. They got a big unlock. It's 71% of their supply on July 9th. That is a huge number. And then we have another unlock, 64 million worth of Aptos. It's 2.5%, which is a lot, but it sounds like nothing after the Zai story, 71%.
Yeah, and a light-hearted story to end us off here. Logan Paul is suing CoffeeZilla for defamation over the CryptoZoo coverage. So
get back, Logan.
Story just keeps going. Just keeps going.
Yeah, right on. All right. Please consider liking and subscribing. It means the world to us. If you're enjoying the content, share with a friend. We really just like getting into the space and talking about it. We do it for the love. It keeps us up to date on everything in the space. Gives us a chance to express ourselves. So we really appreciate everyone who comes and listens to us two dorky guys.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, like and subscribe. Not financial advice. Do your own research. Educational and entertainment content. Are you a financial advisor, Ozzy?
I am definitely not a financial advisor, and anything I say, especially about Goon, should be taken with massive grains of salt.
All right. Thanks, everybody, for joining us. We'll see you next week.